Well, turning to politics now, where America is awaiting the vice presidential picks of both presumptive nominees. Both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have whittled down their potential choices down to just a few names. Trump says that he will announce his pick at a news conference tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, we're just days away from the start of the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. And amid recent violent events across the country, law enforcement officials there are gearing up for what could be a very chaotic event. Bob Schieffer is a CBS News political contributor and the longtime moderator of Face the Nation. Bob, welcome and thank you for joining us. We did the math here. You've covered 25 conventions in your career.
Will be 25
this year.
If I live to get to the Democratic Convention.
Where are you going to go, Bob? You got to make it. Are you kidding me? You got to be there.
Everyone since the Democratic Convention in Chicago in 1968.
But 68, that's the convention everyone points to as the crazy one when you talk about race relations and violence. What are you expecting in this one? How would it compare?
Well, you know, it's very interesting. This may be something, and I'm not talking about the violence that broke out in the streets or something, but in 1968, the Democratic Party basically just came apart. It tore itself apart. It was about the war in Vietnam. And I'm not sure it is, you know, has gotten itself back together yet. I mean, it is a different party than it was going into 1968. The establishment crumbled in 72, trying to reform what had happened in 68 because, of course, they lost. Richard Nixon was elected. Then they elected someone totally out of the Democratic mainstream, George McGovern. They lost big again. It was a long time before they, you know, got back to the White House. And what you're seeing here in the Republican Party is a party that's going through an identity crisis. What is it? Who is it? This is not the Republican Party that we have known before. If Donald Trump gets the nomination, and I think he is, this is not the Republican Party of even 4 years ago. For one thing, you know, after getting beat the last time out, they did this survey and said we got to make this enormous outreach. This is not a party that's made an enormous outreach to minorities. I mean, you have the Hispanics. Donald Trump's negatives among Hispanics are up in the 70%, I think it is. His numbers with women are enormously high, and yet you see that he is basically tied with Hillary Clinton in the latest CBS News New York Times poll that comes out, and he is making big gains among independents, and her favorability ratings continue to go down. You know, this may be the first time that we've ever had two candidates that a majority of the American people neither like nor trust. That's something different for us, and I don't know how that shakes out.
Where do you think the Republican Party goes from here? Does it survive?
Well, I don't know. It certainly will not be the same Republican Party that we've known about in the past. This would be a Republican Party that is anti-trade, which has been the cornerstone of the Republican Party. They are anti-immigration. It is a party that would now be in favor of building walls. It's going to be a different Republican Party that we have known. I was on Capitol Hill yesterday, and I was over in the Senate. And what struck me is nobody much mentions Donald Trump by name. They talk about, you say, are you going to support Trump? I'm going to support the nominee. I'm going to support the ticket.
They don't name him.
It's almost like Harry Potter, where there was he who cannot be mentioned. I mean, I was really struck by that. Somebody told me that John Barrasso, who was the chairman of the Platform Committee, they'd been out in Cleveland for the last 2 days, and someone who was there said, I never heard him in 2 days presiding over the Platform Committee ever mention Trump by name.
Wow.
Said he talked about Ronald Reagan a lot. He talked about the nominee, but said they couldn't recall him ever mentioning Trump by name. And that's kind of the mood up on Capitol Hill right now. Now, you go over to the House, it's a little different over there. There are some Trump supporters over there, but it's hard to find them in the U.S. Senate right now.
I want to ask you also, Bob, about the VP picks. What does each party need to do, each candidate need to do? Who do they need in their VP pick?
You know, I think if I were either candidate, I'd put the Dallas police chief on the ticket.
Boy, was he good. Yes.
You know, this is somebody, we haven't seen somebody like that in a long, long time. You know what I think? I think it makes absolutely no difference.
You don't think
I
people
think
pick
this is an election about Donald Trump and about Hillary Clinton. And I think most of the time the vice presidential pick doesn't matter. It's just you pick somebody that won't hurt the ticket. The one time it really mattered was in 1960 when Kennedy put Lyndon Johnson on the ticket. I don't think Kennedy would have won that election without Johnson, who enabled him to carry Texas and some of those key southern states. He couldn't have won without him. But I can't think of an election since then where it really made much difference. And this is about Hillary Clinton and about Donald Trump. And again, what's so different about this campaign is it's two candidates whose main appeal seems to be they are not the other candidate. In other words, you hear people say, I don't like Hillary, but I got to vote for her because I can't stand Trump. Or you hear people say, I don't like Trump, but I got to vote for him because I can't stand Hillary.
To negate the other person on the other side.
Yes, and so I don't think who they pick as a vice president really makes much difference.
We had some surprises. Sarah Palin was a huge surprise. People were like, who is she?
Yeah.
Remember Admiral Stockdale?
Yes. Who am I? Why am I here?
Why am I here? That may have been my favorite debate moment ever of all times. Bob, give us for us young folks, a little bit of political, spiritual healing. I mean, is there hope? Do you feel like it's just such negativity in politics?
Well, here's the thing. It's got to be the young people that save us from all this. We have gotten to a point here where serious people are campaigning, our campaigns, you have to spend all your time raising money. This whole process has become so odious and so awful that serious people, one after another, are saying, I don't want to take part in this. I want no part of this. This is not how I want to spend my life. And so they're turning away and not competing, not running for office. So what we're left with is the people who are willing to do what you have to do to be elected now. And it is, for want of a better phrase, an entirely different class of people, in my view, than used to run for public office in this country. Let me tell you this. You know, when I was a little boy, my grandmother thought I was going to grow up to be president of the United States. You know why? Because that's what every grandmother thought about her grandson. How long has it been since you've heard anybody say, I hope my child grows up to be a politician?
So true.
That is the worst indictment that you can give of our political system, and that's what's wrong right now.
But I'm glad that you have faith, Bob, in the younger generation. You look at Brexit and you see how the younger folks didn't get to the polls and how important it is for the youth vote.
They're a lot smarter than we are. My generation has screwed this thing up beyond all.
Bob Schieffer, always a good time. Thank you, Bob, for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.